the appetizer, or do we just want to go to the main course?
What
Like,
is
how
the
do you guys want to?
appetizer?
What do you mean? What is the appetizer? Like the whole?
I want to hear
Oh,
you explain how you lost 1,000%
I
on
have an
that
appetizer.
Well,
GME thing.
that's
This is my
like
appetizer. I'm eating
that's
Wendy's
dessert,
for
right?
breakfast.
That's dessert. I mean, I don't know about you, but like that's dessert. You know, that's the dessert stage. But
Oh, it sounds like the main course for
I
me.
think that will hype me up quite a lot.
so
Wait, Tony, I remember back in high school, you were saying you really wanted to buy Tesla stocks. You were showing me all. That was high school. Yeah, it was that long ago. It was like insanely cheap at the time. That was definitely high school. Yeah, it was super cheap. And then you were like, "Hey, Michael, look at this. It's gonna be a great company." Okay, whatever you say, bro. And then here we are.
How many years did it take for that to pay off? Like 8, 9? When we said GME like 2 months ago, what did everyone say?
Hey, bro, bro, let's look at their company.
Michael, if you read the thesis about GameStop, it was never about the value of the company, and it still isn't.
Yeah, it makes sense. I read the offer rate went up. I went back and read all the posts on it, and I finally understand why I can reach this thing. But
yeah, and that was the main reason I brought it up back then. And of course, Amir also jumped on it, pretty early. But yeah, okay, let's just let's give a quick introduction, I guess, to why we're doing this episode. I think anybody who remotely follows the news or has internet access probably has heard of what's happened with the stock market and GameStop specifically, right? I think we don't need to go into the big details. I think it's been summarized like countless times by media outlets, whatever. Bottom line is there is what some people are calling a financial revolution, right? The retail investors versus the big hedge fund, fueled by memes and a small niche subreddit once upon a time that has become incredibly mainstream. If you guys saw the subscriber numbers to Wall Street Bets, I believe in the beginning of the week it was around 2-point-something million, and now it's sitting at 5 last I checked.
It's correlated to
7
GME
million?
stock value.
7 million. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm gonna butcher this quote, but someone famous once said his shoe boy started giving him stock advice on what to invest, and that's when he knew it was time to pull out of the market. So when you have friends that have never mentioned stocks and investing come up to you like, hey, how do I use Robinhood, or like, what platform?
That's exactly what I said to Jack a couple days ago. It's like he told me Tony is in.
This is
I was
so
like,
funny.
I am definitely out.
Yeah, hey, guess who's thinking about getting into GameStop? Tony. And he was like, holy shit, this is the fucking top. I got it, Paul. But here's the key difference, right? Traditionally, when it comes to these bubbles, we know there's an inevitable pop. Like more and more casual people get into it, drives the valuation up, and eventually there's going to be a sell-off. And the people who got into it don't really have an idea of, they're not really in it for the long haul, right? They're trying to make a quick buck. They're trying to jump on the hype train, and they're going to pull out. Like, what's the paper hands, right? Like, they're going to see their losses, they're going to pull out, and it's going to trigger a massive sell-off, and that's when the bubble pops, right? This situation is more unique because, first of all, I don't think I've ever seen like common people so united on on one stock, right? It's like it's almost an organized movement, except it really isn't. It's just people on a subreddit convincing each other to, hold the line, stand strong, diamond hands, and it's literally fueled by memes and I would say emotion, right? It's a lot of it is emotionally driven. And there's like this sentiment that's been growing for the past few years about, the wealthy versus the common folk, right? I think it's definitely gotten more extreme under Trump. Um, people mention like privilege all the time now, and how the little people are always stuck to deal with, the rich's problems, right? And it seems like this whole GameStop situation is it's almost like a personification of all of you know, the frustration that's been growing among everyday people that's been building up, right? So you see posts now on Wall Street that's like, at this point, it's not even about the money, it's about the principle. It's about sticking it to the man, right? So actually, I want to talk about that before we get into more specifics. Like, what do you guys think about that narrative that's, been painted around this whole situation?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's my keyboard. I'm typing stuff, but yeah, no, it's okay. How about now? How about now? It's good now. Okay. Um, okay. So, okay, before we answer that question that Jack just asked, what do we think about um, I guess this whole situation in general? But what do you guys think of the outcome of this? Like, is it going to be like as always is that retail people just ends up holding all the bags, and maybe this is elongated to maybe 2 3 weeks or 2 3 months, but at the end of the day the market maker is always right? Or do you guys think that this would eventually, like, my honest question is that, what do you guys see GME price? Is it going to maintain at $300, 500, 600 for however many long? Like, it can't keep up, right? Because in my opinion, that's just how human nature is. We jump onto the coolest thing at the moment, and then the interest slowly fades away.
Get bored, yeah.
Yeah. So I heard this analogy. Well, I don't know. I read it somewhere. It's like the borrowing the library book analogy for the GME stocks. So what it is that and that really helped me understand like what a short squeeze really is, and maybe I don't know if Tony or Michael truly understands what really happens behind the scene. Is that, for example, if I do borrow a book out of the library, for example, at the time, Harry Potter books, it's very popular. There's only limited supplies out there and stuff like that, right? But eventually these people are just banking on they can make a better return now than a few months down the line. And the thing is, I personally think they will eventually win, the hedge funds, because regardless of what Jack said about unity and people getting together, is that those interests slowly fades, and eventually they do come crashing down.
Of course. Yep. People were convinced there was going to be a squeeze on Friday, right? Like a gamma squeeze, and nothing really happened. People were convinced there was going to be a short ladder attack, like we saw on Thursday. None of that happened, right? Yeah, the truth is no one really knows, and it's interesting. Go on. Right. Yeah. I think think the thesis is still valid, right? It's just incredibly hard to
Absolutely,
achieve
yeah.
because, you know, it sounds simple. If you just buy all their shares and never sell, eventually they're gonna run out. But you're
It's kind of
basically
like that thing.
betting against.
It, it, it's kind of like that game that we taught about in business school. Is like the prisoner's dilemma or something like that, right? It's like whoever goes first or whoever think about themselves always win, kind of, right? But then the stuff about internet is like, okay, can I trust the people that on the other side to actually keep their promise and hold the shares? Where if I hold, they're gonna hold, but if they sell, I'm left holding the bag for a very very long period of time and potentially lose all my life savings, pretty much. Um,
Yeah, that's the thing that's really gonna make this unsustainable is all the new people that jumped in for this past week don't really understand or aren't really as committed, I guess, as some of the, editors that have been holding since the price was at like $10. They're not active
it's easier
investors.
for them to hold.
It's easier for the people who got in early to hold. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but the people who are jumping on the hype chain right now and trying to get a piece of the pie, yeah, it's absolutely incredibly easy for them to paper hand it, and that's why this is probably not going to go the way of the retail investor. Right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think, yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. The volume that
Mhm.
we've seen for this past week, that is certainly not from retail investors. Like big institutions have definitely gotten in on the other side of the short and they're betting against some of the hedge funds too. There's no doubt about that. Like retail investors are not capable of driving up the price this much. Um, so it is kind of interesting. And another thing that I'll point out that's going for the retail investors is I would argue there has never been such public attention on a specific stock situation like this. Like even in the crazy Bitcoin days, I don't think you had people like not just Elon Musk, but popular people on TikTok, on YouTube, on social media, influencers like Mr. Beast, for example. They like everybody is talking about this. Everybody knows the situation basically. No matter how uninformed you are about the stock market, you know about the GME situation. And it's not a hard concept to grasp. To you may not understand what a short squeeze is, but you can understand buy and hold. It's a simple concept. So that is the bull case for retail investors. Is there's a lot of strong sentimental support from the public, the media, all sides about this, right? And the bear
Hey
case,
Tony, I'm curious to know, and I guess this is more a question for Tony. Is that we did talk about GME on our last call, but like when did you personally got any news regarding GME, or have you been paying attention to GameStop ever since our call? Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, right.
I think it was Monday or Tuesday when Chamath first, yeah, then he tweeted that he got in.
Okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
Right.
The next day after market is when Elon Musk tweeted about it and linked to Wall Street
Oh,
Bets
okay.
Reddit,
Okay.
the
Okay.
subreddit, which would explain the
Oh,
explosive growth as well. Two days ago, right?
Thursday.
Yeah.
mhm. Right. Mhm. Mhm.
Do you own Tesla shares, by the way? Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm. Right. Mhm. Right. Mhm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Quick question. Quick question then. At what value would you sell? And it's all numbers. And trust me, I'm not gonna pressure you, but would you sell at 5K? Would you sell at 10K? Would you sell at 20K, for example? Would you sell?
Oh yeah, any of those numbers. Any of those.
Right.
Much lower, much lower, much lower.
Right.
Everyone
Exactly.
should,
So
okay.
so what I'm saying is that this thing it can go on, right? Period. Like people will start selling at it just hasn't reached that price yet, maybe, right? Um and
I mean, there's no such
but the thing is there's no such thing, but the really what's surprising me personally is that it's giving me that vibe. Every time that I visit Wall Street Bets and every time I read up any article on anything about GME, it gives me that feeling is like, holy shit, I should buy GME. And then I talk myself out. But then every time I look at those posts, I'm like, I should buy GME. Because they're so convincing to a point that like these theories are actually crazy, right? Because GME reaching $300 is already crazy. I'm like, okay, if that happened, this most likely will happen too. But that's just me, right? What about Michael? Do you have any exposures in those meme stocks? Like, you don't have to own GME, but like, do you own like any Blackberries, Nokia, anything like that? AMC?
Actually do.
You do?
Yeah,
I
Okay.
bought Nokia the day before it lifted off because I saw it on Wall Street Bet. So I was like, you know what? It's cheap. It didn't lift off yet. I'm gonna buy it. Next day it went up by 80%, and I sold it. I'm done.
nice.
Okay. Okay.
And I bought BB when it was like I forgot what it was, but it was like a week ago. And then I bought some more on Friday when it dipped to the lowest point to average out the cost.
So yesterday, right?
Yes, and I also bought what was that meme stock? It's like a penny stock that
Express.
someone, let me see,
Naked?
SNDL Sendile. That's right. It was
What?
it was suddenly on Wall Street Bet, and it was like
See, these
let's
are
get this thing to
pumping
climb.
up, man. These are
This
so
is
Yo,
cool.
man.
pumping though.
It's like the thing is, you just it didn't lift off yet, and people keep spamming it on Wall Street Bet. It's probably gonna go up the next day. So I bought it at 60 cents, and it went to like $1.20 next day. I didn't sell it right away because it was way too early in the morning, and then in the afternoon it would drop back to 0.8. But still, it's like a 30% gain.
How, like, I guess my follow-up question for you, Michael, is that, you know, and I know we'll talk about this too as well, is
No, go ahead.
we'll talk about this too individually, Sharek, is that how do you control yourself? Like, do you set stop losses? Do you set like limit sells, like trail, like
No, it's just a small percentage of my portfolio. I
Okay.
dedicate it to meme stocks.
Okay.
So I mean, it might seem like, oh, I made 80% in a day, but end of the day, I only put like $1,000 in it, so it's only $800.
Right. And see, and that's the
You should see the fluctuation on my portfolio every day. it's in the 10K range. So
but you know, like I guess the question is that, you know, and that's, in my opinion, how you're supposed to do these things, right? The meme stocks, you put a small amount of money and then just forget about it, and maybe one day, like Rick, it blows up, and then hey, great, you just got a bunch of extra money, right? But what about these other people that seriously risk their 100% of their portfolio and it drops 50% in a day? Like, how do you
it just seems
deal?
it just doesn't make sense to me. Like these meme stocks, these are the ones I don't even bother looking at their earning reports. It's just, you know what, people like it. Sure, I'll put like a small percentage in it. If I lose it, I mean, even if it drops 50%, it's not that big of a deal. But if it goes up, it can go up 200, 300% pretty easily because of how these you know, retards do. But
Similar to actual gambling, it's all about maximizing your risk to reward ratio. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how a lot of day traders make money, right? They'll make a lot of seemingly small bets, and maybe a couple of them blow up big. But when they do blow up, that's where they make most of their return.
exactly.
Michael,
But I want to
go ahead.
let's finish this up, and then we can, yeah.
Amir, go ahead.
What were you gonna say, Amir?
Oh, I was gonna ask, like, do you have a set plan going into the trade? For example, you know, and then we're not talking about Apple or Microsoft, those good stocks, right? We're talking about, you know, these meme stocks where you know it's gonna fluctuate a lot, and then you keep a small amount in. Like, when do you, like, okay, is 2x? Like, do you look at charts? Do you like read the charts? Are you a technical guy? Like, are you a fundamentalist, or what are you, right? Like, how do you determine, okay, this is good enough?
Meme stock? No, I don't look at charts.
Okay.
And I will look at their earning report and I'll realize this is a complete meme stock. There's no value.
Oh, come
in the
on. Oh, come
company.
on. You need to read their earnings report to know it's a meme stock?
Yeah, probably not. Not for these couple, but I did look at PLTR though.
Okay.
Like at the very beginning, and then I realized, oh my god, okay, there's nothing to read here for anything Wall Street Bet says, so might as well just YOLO it, right? But I guess my stop set point is probably around like 50 to 100% gain. I'm
Okay.
willing to sell anywhere in the range.
And
And if it drops, I'm gonna hold. I'll hold.
Are you gonna hold?
Yeah.
But these companies, they might be absolutely shit, but I'm sure, one day the retard will just say, all right, let's all go in on this again. And then I'll sell like TLTR. Like it went to 31 at one point in December, and it dropped straight down to like 22 or something. And then now it's coming back
You
again
weren't even
at
around for the
35.
OG meme stuff. Space, SPCE, Virgin
Yeah, yeah,
Galactic,
yeah,
Yeah.
the original
yeah.
rocket ship. This shit,
Yeah.
this worthless piece of shit company got pumped all the way to like 24, back down to 12. Now it's like 40 something, You're
Yeah,
right. If you just
yeah.
keep holding, the retards will eventually buy back in.
Exactly. I mean, Neo is probably the most successful one, in my opinion. At least, like, I didn't join Wall Street Bet that early.
Well,
I mean,
here's the bull case for Neo is that eventually China's just gonna steal Tesla's blueprint and give it to them. So I'm pretty convinced that it's a good buy.
Okay, interesting. What about you, Jack? Like, do you go in with a stop? Like, do you have a mental? Okay, this is, or do you just go by the go with the flow?
So I do a bit of both. Like, so remember, well, you know what happened with my trade. So that stop limit that we set at 10x gains.
Yeah.
I was gonna remove that limit based on what I've seen from the subreddit and the growing sentiment and how much public attention it was getting. It's just I didn't expect it to trigger that day, right? So I just didn't end up removing it in time, basically. So that's that is my bad. But yeah, I think I'm kind of similar. Like I'll have a limit that I'm satisfied with, but just based on what I've seen from the momentum and everything, the fact that you had a public figure like Chamath getting in and getting a lot of attention on this trade, it seemed to me like it was reasonable that it was gonna go above my 10x. It was gonna go above 200. I saw it going above 200 easily.
Okay.
I did not expect Elon Musk to tweet about it after hours and jump to 300 something.
Okay, and that's when your shares got sold, right? Or when you got triggered when you
my shares, my order got filled at like 4:20 something p.m. after hours, right? And I'm not gonna lie, I was pissed. I ran upstairs. I was like, "What the fuck? Like, what just happened? It closed at 80. How could it fill?" And then I see the price, and it's like 280, 350, and I'm like, "Cool."
So do you have after hours trading enabled on Robinhood, or how does it work?
Every brokerage you can set to like fill up to 30 days for 1 day or up to 4 p.m. or after hours.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you can do that on Questrade too. But
okay.
Yeah, like I think whenever you go into these kind of stocks that are not sustainable long term, you must have an exit strategy, right? And I think it's a little interesting that almost no one on Wall Street Bets is talking about an exit strategy. It seems like they think that if you just hold forever, you're just gonna profit one day. No one's talking about the fact that if a short squeeze actually happens, in the event that it actually happens, we've seen this in history with Volkswagen. It'll last like 30 minutes, an hour tops, right? And when it goes back down, who are going to be the ones left bag holding? It's not the hedge funds. It's not the institutions. It's all the retail investors that didn't sell in time.
And I don't even think, I think another more recent example is TRY. I don't know if you guys are familiar with restocks, right? And or any of you played restocks back, couple years ago, I want to say. But it literally happened a day. A span of 2-3 hours, it shot up like God's know however many multiplier, and then came back down, right? And I think there's a bunch of different strategies for people okay with the amount they're getting, and I think a prime example of how I think a successful early mover did this is we're looking at DFV, the fucking Valley. I think I really like his style of doing it, and I really respect him is that
he looks exactly like you would imagine him to look like.
Yeah, exactly. That too. But he's actually taking profit. Like he's taking money off the table. Right now he has like a lot of cash. And to me, if you really think about it, he went from 50K to whatever his cash value right now is a crazy story already. So he can already kind of have that story in the bag and then let the rest just run, right? Who knows where it could turn? And I think he's already okay with that. That's why he's not selling, right? And for people like Tony, he's like, okay, well, I'm here just for the experience. If I lose the money, I don't really care. But so everybody has something that they go for, right? And it could be all different. Maybe for and I'm always really bad at this, is that setting my stop loss and what am I okay with, and just FOMO in general is that, well, I sold at 150, but now it's 300. I could have, double my money theoretically, right? And that fear of missing out is something that I'm kind of interested to talk about in this call as well, with you guys. Yeah, with you guys, see if you guys have any opinion in that.
Yeah, that's a very real thing, and I would argue that like one of the major sentiments driving this whole thing is that
Mhm.
fear of missing out, right? Um, People don't want to miss. Like people have seen this before with Tesla, with Bitcoin, with every company that's going on a
Dogecoin?
crazy run. Dogecoin, yeah, yeah. Uh, people don't want to miss the boat, miss
Yeah.
the next boat rather, right? So they're like, oh man, I should have gotten in on this. Fuck, I won't make the same mistake again.
hmm hmm
And that's why you have people get like $400. Where you going?
hmm
Mhm.
Hey, hey,
You
hey,
guys,
hey,
it's
hey, hey,
few
hey.
select people.
Some of
The
us
company
some of us is gambling,
eligible.
some of us are not, okay? But anyways.
Everyone has their own risk tolerance. I agree with Michael. Mhm.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep, yep. Mhm. You said this helps with the FOMO?
Okay.
I feel like for some people that would fuel the FOMO, right? Like I missed out on this. I don't want to do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes it easy to deal with. Mhm.
That's interesting though. That's
Don't worry,
interesting. Okay.
we went. I went through that same feeling the day my order failed, and the next day it went to 360. That's the
Hey, you already
very
made
similar
10
feeling.
times on it.
No, this trade is not over, my friend. We'll see how much I make or lose at the end. I'm still in. Actually, about 50 back at 300. Yeah. No, I have 20 left. I had stop losses at 280, 250, all the way down. I canceled the last few because shit was going down like crazy. And then so 20 remaining, went back up to 300, whatever it is now. This is the amount I'm fully willing to lose. That's my risk tolerance. No, not fuck that shit. I'm out at 500. I mean, it's like you said, like I think being part of the experience does make you more invested, absolutely. And plus I think of this as, money that I accidentally made anyways. So it's something I was more willing to lose in a sense. Which is probably not the right mindset for long-term trading, but
It's your money, man. Like,
that's what
if I'm gonna go into your house and take 10K from you, would you let me? I think he's talking to someone. No, like,
That's a
no.
yes.
Okay, Jack, I'm gonna ask again, right? If I go into your house and take 10K of actual money from you, would you let me?
No.
No, right. So why are you okay with actually not protecting your money anymore?
Because 2 points is not 2 points.
Sure. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And that analogy is also flawed because you're saying if you took $10,000 from me straight up, would I let you? No. If you took $10,000 from me and you say, hey, there's a chance this will turn into X amount, I'll think about it. It's a different situation, you know?
Right. And in this case,
10,000, that base number 10,000 is different for everybody.
right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
You're basically suggesting GMU will go to 0. That's how you lose the 10,000.
Which it might.
Which it might.
It might go to probably, yeah, it might go to $5.
Yeah.
It might go to
Right.
5,000.
And I think, yeah, absolutely.
Probably not,
And
but it might.
it absolutely might. And I'm not doubting the probability of that happening.
And
It's
like
just
Michael
that
said, you set aside a certain amount of portfolio for these meme stocks,
Mhm.
and therefore you don't care about it as much in terms of the losses, right? Like that this is not your whole life savings. Right? People, like you said, people who are gambling with their life savings, that's the people you should be worried about.
Right. And yet now the reason why I'm saying this, and this hit homes for me, hit home hard for me, is that I am really bad at knowing when to sell. Like, I'm really bad. Like, I traded I traded Wii stocks when it was, not I think it was summer of 2 years ago. So when it's just coming off its high, right? So I'm like, dude, this company Sounds great. People love it, and it's like 50% of its high. Maybe 2 months from now, it will go back to its high, and I buy it, and it just keeps going down. But then the mentality is that, okay, well, I'm gonna make it back. I'm gonna make it back. And then every single day that it does goes by, the amount that I needed for it to increase just keep going up. Until one point, I need to like 10 bag this for me to even break even my initial cost. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, there's got to be another way to do this because I can't keep losing my money, right? And I was thinking to myself, and it's like, okay, there's other way. Like, okay, what if I, instead of doing stop losses or limit sales and stuff like that, I put it in a scenario where, you know what, maybe I don't make that much money, but at the same time, I don't lose any money. So that's how I really, um, you know, started looking into options and option trading. Is that okay? What is a best way for me to use options as insurance, protect my original invested value in a way? But not, obviously I still do gamble here and there, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
And it's becoming a thing ever so it's becoming a thing ever so popular. So it's crazy that people are willing to spend that amount of money on something um uh so reckless, I guess.
Yep.
And to add on to that question is for you, Michael, is that why I know you've been very strongly about this, is like why wouldn't you ever touch options?
I mean, the way I trade things is I don't look. I trade these growing companies. So I look at basically their report, how their company's been doing, if they have secured any new contracts lately, and I guess I like to buy things closer to their earning dates. And if I have good expectations for them, I will purchase them. For example, I guess what's closest coming up. For example, Pinterest is coming up and Snap. So
Yeah.
Facebook is basically on their same line of the industry, and Facebook produced a very nice report. And similarly, last time Pinterest and Snap released their report, their earnings, I mean, all their past earning has been nice this year. And every time they release their earnings, their stock went up by like 15% or so. So this is something I would like to risk on. So this is something I like to buy. And so that's basically how I pick stocks. I don't have loss. I mean, it's not I never lose money, but I don't have loss limits on my ever, because unless I hear something really bad about a company that I know it's gonna fail, then I'll just sell it on the spot. I don't really care how much it loses. Uh,
Or just hold
or I
forever
just hold
if
forever,
you
exactly.
are
Because if it's a good company, it might get shorted. It might, some people might just do a big sell on it. It will climb back eventually. Um,
then how do you deal with opportunity cost, or I guess FOMO in general? It's like, why you have this amount of money set there, technically not
GameStop.
making you anything, right? But you could have, for example, put it in GME and turned out a 10 bagger, right?
I always like to keep cash on the side and not trade anything, and to use them as averaging cost of my shares. For example, Fubo. People might, I don't know, people seem to hate on it, but I like it. I think it's a good company. It jumped to 70, and it started dropping like 30% a day, 20% a day. I saw
It's
four.
getting shorted. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. I was like, oh shit. I saw the point that it would stop would be 40, I was like, okay, if it dropped below 40, I'm gonna put in like 2.5. That's how I do things. I do put 2.5% of my portfolio in it at the very beginning. It hits 40. I was like, all right, it's time. Let me put 40. Let me put money in it. 2.5%. Next day, drop another 20%. I was like, oh fuck. And then I was like, okay, let me wait this out a little bit. And the next day, drop another 20%. And it went down to like 28. And then that's when no, it went on down to 30. That's when I put in another 2.5% to average out the cost because I think this is a good company. Next, they kept on dropping till like 24-ish, and I was like, and that's below.
Oh, I assume he. Okay.
So the average might.
You
The
cut out.
average. Oh, sorry. Say that again.
You cut out, so we didn't hear what it was.
Oh, so you drop down by another 20% in the next 2 days until like 24.
Okay.
So I bought another 2.5%. So it's 7.5% of my portfolio, which is actually the largest position I hold at that time because I like to stop at 5% max, and generally that's good enough for me. But this one just dropped way too much, so I had to average out some more. I dropped 24, and then I was like, okay, it's before when it started lifting off, so I think that's about it. So I put in more money, 7.5%, and it started going up again. So now it's back to 42. But once it went beyond my average cost, I sold 2.5% and kept at 5% of my portfolio because I don't want to take more risk than that. So that's how I normally trade, and I like to keep cash on the side for those. If I use all those money for something else, well, I wish I used it for GME, but I didn't. But if I use it for something else, I don't have any cash, I wouldn't have anything to average out my cost to make more profits later. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't like to FOMO, but I do if I have to with my meme stock money.
Yeah, that's very reasonable.
I had a. Go for it. Go for it.
Right. Mhm. Right.
How do you manage 23 stocks?
Oh, I have spare time.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, I don't have 30 stock. I have 20. And I mean, I guess I have a huge list of stocks I think are pretty good. I have good earnings. And then when their earning report day comes closer, I'll take another look. If it's good, then I'll get some and wait for the report. If it's not good, then I mean, I just don't do anything.
How do you curate that list in the first place?
Oh, from everywhere. I mean, if people mention it, I'll add it to the list and I'll take a look when I have time.
Who are people?
Okay. Reddit.
Who are these people?
Reddit stocks.
What subset of Reddit?
No, just stocks. Actually, Reddit stocks.
Our stocks. Our stocks, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's R investing.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, literally just go on YouTube and say good stocks for the month, and then there's like 50 of them, different ones.
Right.
And they all have their reasons, but most of them don't fit my criteria.
I thought Nico was like a savant investor, like taking out these stocks by hand from like.
Oh no, I don't have time for that. No. I mean, there's always
I personally have a
Yeah.
pet monkey. I personally trained a pet monkey to throw darts at a wall, and I put random letters on there, And if it happens to start a ticker, I'll look it up and
Mhm.
we'll see how. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean,
That's cool. That's cool.
yeah, it's not that, it doesn't take that long. Yes.
I can see
Yeah.
that point.
I think it's a hard yes or no question to answer your question, Tony. It's all about perspective,
So
right?
that's a no.
Huh? No. I think it's all about perspective, right? And at the end of the day, what are you okay with, right? It's all percentage of
Right.
your salary, your net worth, your the amount that you invested in, the time that you're getting paid to do your actual job, right? I think that's how we compare it by, right? At this point, it's definitely worth it for me, especially with the things that I'm doing. Um, but for some, for example, my maybe executive at my company might not be because she makes a much more at her daytime job than you know you're going on GameStop or BlackBerry, for example, right? It's just not worth it for her. So it's all about perspective, right? But just within this call and then with our age group, like the millennials, I think yes, I think it's generally worth it to at least not fully invest yourself in the world of stocks and options and etc. But at least know the basics, know what needs to be done, know all the different things that you could do to maybe protect your money and stuff like that, right? And a great example of this is that we in our company has a weekly call where a bunch of people in our department just come in, just like shit talk for like half an hour or something. And a lot of people, especially my coworkers around my age, um, and this is before GME, but post lockdown is that they have voiced their opinion saying that how they wish they have known how to invest a little bit earlier when they're in school, maybe when they're just starting their job. And some people even in their later 40s saying that they're not as successful in their job, but they're still stuck in that intermediate level, and how they are past their prime per se, right? And how they wish that they could have, you know, taken these opportunities, such as not even Tesla, but just Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, for example, and put their hard-earned money that they did 5-10 years ago into these stocks and be much better off now. And that's the thing that I guess is my answer, is that no, there's no yes or no answer. Different people have different perspective because they have different priorities, right? Life, net worth, stuff like that. But right now, because of my net worth, because of my job, because of how much I make, the just if you talk about number wise, yes, it is worth it for me. Okay. Michael, go for
You
it.
go for it.
Shut them down.
You go for it.
Well, no, come on.
You go for it.
Okay, well, I'll be modest here, and I'm not. I joined these calls to talk with you guys, and I join talking with you guys, and I want you guys to be successful. But with options, I think I'm going to be done in 5 years, and then I'm not going to be working anymore. 5 years is like the goal, right? And of course, there's stretch goal, but let's not get too optimistic about that. And these are like steady, guaranteed that I think unless the market crash, I'm gonna make that, right? That kind of money. And I don't know if that's okay with your answer. I don't want to just give out a number. But yeah, no, being done in 5 years is kind of my answers for you.
Done with your life or
As in, like, so another thing that we did talk about is when I chatted with Tony and Jack previously is just retire early, and then that's my goal, right? And getting that goal in 5 years is probably what I want to achieve. And then to retire early, different people have different numbers. For me, probably 1.5 mil, 1 mil, somewhere there, that range. So I don't have to work anymore.
talking about it. He said he needs at least 3.5 mil. Yeah, I was
Huh?
like, what?
I was like, wait, what?
I don't have to work anymore, you telling me? God damn. Yeah, somebody told me.
Yeah, I
Whose
saw
comment is this?
you need like 50 mil, like the deep fucking value. That's when you can retire.
No,
I mean, I
I
think it
think
also
I think
depends on the kind of lifestyle you want to live afterwards.
exactly. And to add on to what Jack said, I don't think I live a very, um, you know, what do you call that?
Excessive.
Expensive lifestyle. Yeah, excessive, I guess. But just live within your means, I guess. Not spending money buying exotic products or whatever, right?
What about
But
your kids?
sorry.
What about your kids?
I think with passive investing with 1 million, I think I could achieve that pretty easily.
Okay, that's good. Good for you.
Thank you, Michael. Your turn.
No way, 5 years. No.
No,
No, I don't.
like
No.
I guess the question is that your answer to it is yes, it is worth it for you to
Right.
invest your time into it. One, maybe there's nothing else to do in right now, especially in the pandemic period. And second is that you want to, because all our goal is to just beat the indexes, right? You have
Right.
the indexes that average maybe 8%, 10% a year. Warren Buffett famous for it, that give whatever however money, but they can't beat the index for 10 years, or was it, right? But your goal is to beat the indexes, right? Or else you wouldn't be actively managing your money. So are you successful?
Exactly.
Right? Are you successful is the question one. And second, do you think it's worth it? Well, I guess you already answered that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. Returns being good, I guess, especially last year. I mean, I'm not spending that much time on stocks, mainly just after work and some weekend times. So, and I'm planning to keep working. I'm not taking MBA just so that,
Yeah.
I can retire in 2 years or 5 years. Because that would be, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll grow in my career and do other stuff. But yeah, stocks on the side, it's definitely worth it. I mean, I guess before 20 to 30% gain a year is pretty standard. Um, this year, obviously, triple that pretty easily. But again, this year is very unhealthy, and I really hope people don't treat this as a norm. But yeah, but timing the market always beats timing the market, right? So the longer you spend in the market, the easier for you to make money. Even if it's okay company, you hold it for 4 to 5 years, it's still gonna make you money. It's better than putting in a bank or some other stuff. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. I think for me, it's also yes and yes. Um, well, my strategy isn't quite as, I think it's probably a mix between Amir and Michael, but I definitely don't go in depth in terms of researching the companies that Michael does. And I also don't try to maximize my gains in terms of options trading like Amir does, I think, in creative ways. I have most of my money in what I would consider my retirement fund, passive investing, where I don't really touch it. Um, and then the rest is, I guess, so-called play money, right? And even a lot of that is just holding shares long term. And I'm not gonna lie, I think if I were to break down the overall, I'm pretty sure the shares that I've invested in have made better returns than the options plays that I've made. But I also don't regret those plays because I think one, it does help me get more invested, like we already talked about. Two, it does help me learn about things that I don't think I would, bother to take the time to learn about if I didn't make those kind of plays. And three, it's just fun, like it's fun to bet on something that you think has a chance to turn out right. And if it does, you feel good about it yourself. And if it doesn't, shit, like you take the L, you learn your lesson and you move on. It's just the life experience that you otherwise wouldn't have if you only invested a certain way, I think. And I do completely agree with Michael. Time in market beats timing the market. So I think overall, like I'm pretty satisfied with holding shares, long term in stocks that I believe in. And also, uh, the amount of time I spend looking at, my portfolio and my investments definitely varies in terms of how busy I am at work or just other things in life. Like this past week, I obviously haven't gotten much work done. Just been looking at it, way more than average. Some weeks I actually won't even barely look at my portfolio. Amir tells me of something, I'm like, huh? Like, what do you mean? I didn't read Wall Street Bets for like the past few weeks, like what did I miss out on? So it really varies for me. But at the end of the day, I think the time that I do spend, yeah, like I obviously enjoy it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be spending that time. Um, we wouldn't be able to have these kind of conversations if I didn't put that kind of time in these things.
I think still is. To this day, it still is. It's just that I think a majority of people that does invest in the stock market make easily gains, like 5%, 10% a year, right? And where you really do see news and people like broadcasting or whatever is because they made big gains. And it's like that Facebook effect. You're never gonna see the ugly side of their posts or their effort that they did put it into their successful stories or whatever. We see it all the time now. Wall Street Bets, Twitter, Snapchat, all these different sources that people posting gains. But on the other hand of the spectrum, I bet 99% of the people don't have that. That's why these people are so popular because the less the people that doesn't have it want what they don't have, right? I think I am definitely my knowledge in investments and just trading stocks or options and just different ways of doing it is definitely above average, and I think it's maybe exceeds way exceeds the above average level because I've been the funny thing, and I'll share a story about this. Is that when I first switched companies, maybe a year ago, right? They have their RSP plan for the company, right? And supposedly everybody that new joins the company needs to set up a I guess a meeting with our financial advisor at the time was with RBC, and I was just chatting with these guys, and and the feeling that I do get is, and I'm probably talking out of my ass here, and I don't know how you guys feel about that, is that they don't really know what's going on and all the different strategies. And just based on our conversation is that they're saying that, okay, you do actually know a lot more than what we can offer. So, and then at that time, I'm like, okay, you know what, just sign me out with the basic indices that have like the least amount of management fees, right? And they're like, okay. So yeah, that's I wouldn't consider myself a trader, um, because I blend a mixture of just holding shares and selling premiums, making my shares relatively free. And I think that's honestly the secrets behind a lot of these hedge funds is that they, you know, they protect their assets, but at the same time make a reasonable amount of
They
gains.
have the word hedge is really in the name. Yeah. So
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, yeah, you're talking about indexes and buying stock and stuff like that. But I think what's really behind Wall Street is that they don't let you know about their actual numbers and the amount of money, amount of fees, the amount of premiums that they do collect on a larger scale. And I'm a pleb, you know, like it's literally compared to them, right? They run $1 billion funds where I are just peanuts, right? I'm a drop in the ocean, right? But my goal at the same time is not that far. I really just want $1 million. Exactly. I'm not. But what you're forgetting is that Wall Street's they take a fee on the shares, right? But what they choose to do with their shares is totally up to them, and how they make money is totally, you know, is on these shares that they bought using your money. Does that kind of make sense? For example, yeah, those profits are not returned to you. For example, and you know, I think it's a great opportunity for us to really just jump into options. I don't know if you guys have time for that. Jack, when do you have to go?
uh we have some time. We have some time.
Okay. Okay. Uh, the thing is, for example, if you give money to a hedge fund, I assume this is how it normally works, or if you invest in TD, is that, you know, you ask them to buy a bunch of shares for you, right? And then if that shares goes up in value, your account goes up in value, correct? But at the same time, they own that share. They can choose to lend out that shares for people to short or whatever, collect those fees, or they could stop ending up selling premiums on those shares, right? But those money that they do collect are doesn't return back to the end user, for example, um, and they keep that extra money, but they don't publicize. Okay, well, this is technically how much money I made using the money that you gave me, but this is just on the face value. I think so. They don't give you that money; they keep it. Right? So when you're talking about just indexes, yes, I see it. S&P on an average level, 8 to 10% throughout the years is very normal, and that's just based on organic growth of the companies of the stock. Yeah, you see that, I see that, but there's all these different strategies or different hidden, kind of like the hidden stats where if we play MMORPG, you have strength, luck, intelligence, and stuff like that. But there's like stuff like ignore defense and stuff like that, right? That people are not putting into the equation, right? And those are the hidden attributes, I think, of what makes all these hedge funds more and more successful, is that they utilize these. And where people, as you and I, we're talking about, okay, strength make me stronger, so I hit people harder. Yeah, I'll go more strength. But it's a little bit more. Sorry.
Ape together, stronger. Stronger.
You guys kind of get my analogy. Is that yes, I'm not saying that I'm smarter. I'm not saying that I'm better than these Harvard quants or whatever. That they're way smarter than me, but I just understand, what's behind the scene. Really, not what's behind the scene, but like the next level to just passive investing, I guess. Oh, you can't. You can't. Because of FOMO, because of opportunity cost, because of all these different things, because it's your hard-earned money, you can never beat the market, beat someone like someone that has a strategy. You can't beat the machine, right? Because that's ever so popular now. Quantitative, what is it called? Quantitative trading or whatever? I don't know, AI trading. Like you can't beat that. You just can't beat that, right?
Algorithmic trading.
Sorry.
Algorithmic trading is what you're referring to.
Yeah. Algos, right. You can't beat the market by just buying and holding stocks, but the extra fee premium stuff that you do collect, they do add up, and they add up really quick. Yeah. So I guess since we're talking about covered calls, to answer Michael your question very quickly, how I do get that negative 1,000% is that well, I'm kind of trolling in the chat sometimes because I only post one side of my trade, which if it works out, it's going to be way down. But on the other side, I have hedge against it, and if one is going down, you bet your ass the other one is going way up, right?
How does that work?
Does that kind of make sense? Okay, well, do you have an idea, a general understanding of how options work?
Yeah.
Michael? You do? What does a strike and date mean? Like, can you just generally explain your understanding of options? That way I could just better skip the steps.
So you buy this call for like one contract, and if it hits that price, then you can buy the stock at the original price.
Right.
That you bought when you bought the contract.
And in order for you to buy the contract, you have to pay a thing called premium, right?
Correct.
And that premium changes based on the probability of that price or the target price gets hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And at the same time, you can kind of short a stock, like how you can short an option by selling the option, saying that, okay, you take that gamble while I be the, I don't know, I guess be the very sure.
I don't think that's called shorting an option. I think that's just being on the other side of the trade.
Yeah, you're short selling. I guess how I like to call it is called short selling the option, because at the end of the day, instead of buying it, you're selling it, right? Mm-hmm. And if the time expires and it doesn't hit the strike, you keep both the shares and the premium, which it might go up, it might go down, it doesn't matter. And hopefully that premium you buy, the premium that you sell is enough to cover your shares or cover your cost. An example of this is that, the GME that I had, I was never going to touch any meme stocks without some sort of protection. So I always end up doing with these meme stock is to sell cover calls on them. They are generally 2 weeks, a month out, and with a price that I think it's unachievable in 2 weeks to a month. And obviously, I'm wrong this time, and that's why you see that okay, my cover calls are negative 1,000% down because for example, I sold it at a dollar, but now it's worth $10. So for me to buy it back, I have to cut my loss at negative 1,000%. It's kind of makes sense.
So why do you have to buy it back? I saw for cover calls, it just means if it hits that point, you sell all your shares for that price to whoever you sold the contract to.
Exactly. And in this case, I decided, you know what? I think because at the time I didn't believe, like Jack said, I didn't believe that it would keep going up. So I'm like, you know what? I'll let it go. I'll let it go, and the shares are gone. So I end up keeping my premium, and I make a decent profit, not a lot, but a decent profit on my GME shares.
So why do
Right?
you lose the 1,000%?
The 1,000% is just based on the cover call itself, not the shares, not the total trade value, just the cover call.
Like,
I don't. Okay, is there a way that I could share my screen or something like that? I don't know. It's hard to kind of describe. Maybe
there is,
Jack,
but I think you can explain it pretty straightforward. I think like the negative 1,000%, like Amir said, is like let's say that contract was worth $1 when he sold it, right? $1 times 100, that's $100. When GME exploded in price, that obviously affects the contract and ended up being worth what, $10 instead, right?
so
So
for me,
he
when
sold
we
that
buy that back,
contract for $1. Exactly. So for him to, if he wanted to get his contract back, it's negative 1,000%. It doesn't mean he lost 1,000%. It means that's why I said in the chat that it was unrealized. Like it's not that he took that hit. It's just that if he had that contract still, it would have been worth 10 times more. But because he doesn't, I don't know why your brokerage shows it as 1,000% loss. I don't think that's the same for every brokerage, but yeah.
it's different. It's definitely different, and I mean that negative 1,000. The negative 1,000% is not on the total trade value. It's just based on the cover call itself. Okay. Whereas the shares did went up. For example, I did get $1 per contract, so $100 out of this. And until the options expire, I can always choose to buy it back, right? And it's currently calculating that if you were to buy it back, you're at negative 1,000% PNL.
So you just never
Right.
bought it back, and I guess you just sold your shares for cheaper than what you could have
Exactly.
gained.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Alternatively, no,
Yeah. It's not that complicated. I've discovered that like I think that analogy with the whole RPG with the hidden stats and everything. I don't know,
It made
man.
no
Just
sense.
say that you're selling cover calls. It's fine. It's not that complicated.
sorry,
I
say
mean,
that again. Sure. Yeah. Mhm. Sure, sure. Yeah. I technically lost $10. with the premium. You're right. Sure. Yeah. 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 Yeah, so is the
That's gonna
entire
be
stock market.
pretty hard.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like I don't truly just do on the meme stocks, right? I choose stocks that are like actually good company. If those
Mhm.
companies are truly failing to that degree, you bet your ass the whole stock market is actually going down. And that by that point, I probably have more to worrisome things to worry about, I guess. Right?
So each contract, right?
And you gotta remember, Tony, my average cost always goes down with the premium that I sell. So my break-even point is always a little bit different every
Mhm.
time that I do choose to sell another one, right? Which means that I'm constantly dropping my average. By dropping that, which means that I could always lower down the cost. And of course, like I said, I'm not doing it on GME or BlackBerry. Well, I am doing it on BlackBerry, but this is a totally another story, which if you guys have time, I could talk about that and how it's just a ridiculous phenomenon that I'm actually experiencing right now. But like I said, if you're doing it for on Microsoft or Apple, it, it's safe. It's really safe. I really don't think you can ask it like that because it might get first time I get exercise right away. Second time it might keep going. It's different. Like you can't put a number on that. Like I said, like I told Jack, my goal is to get exercised. I wanted to get exercised. So I normally do sell it very close out the money. For example, if BlackBerry is trading $10 right now, I sell it at $12. I collect the premium. If it goes up, I get exercise at $12. So I make $2 on the share and I collect the premium. So I don't know, man. If you can figure this shit out, let me know. I hope so, but I'm not smart enough to figure that out. But at the end of the day, I'm just thinking to myself, because something that we did talk about earlier, I'm really bad of knowing when to sell, where to sell, stuff like that. I let the options control my potential gain. So I know max. So I normally, if you buy GME, your max gain is normally infinite, right? Let's just call it, because the stock could literally go up to infinite, right? It's a possibility, given that it's not high, but it is. And your max loss is the amount of money that you put in, right? And with covered call, you can achieve, successfully achieve to a way that you cap off your gain. So instead of infinite now, maybe it's $200, you capped it off at that. But at the same time, your max loss is zero. stock, both.
Depends on a number of things. It depends on like
Yeah.
five or six different things. Mhm.
And that's why where I
Where it's not profitable anymore, to like the premium is just not worth it.
here's the thing. So we're talking about two main things regarding how much an option I guess is priced at. One is the actual price of the share itself, and two is the implied volatility of the share itself. So the faster it rises and the faster it drops, the higher the IV, which makes your which makes your options more pricier. Of course, it's really corresponding to the share price. For example, if GME and that, so talking back to why I have a negative 1,000% on my covered calls is because the value of those covered calls constantly change, based on what GME is traded at the time, right? And at the time, GME is traded way higher than my covered calls, the strike on my covered call. So which means that I'll need to pay a significant sum to buy it back so that I can own my shares again, or own the rights to my
It
shares
means that
again.
the person who bought the contract from Amir made 10x profit from it.
Exactly.
Which is why
Right?
for
And
Amir he lost 10x. Because if he
Oh, what did
Yeah.
Amir make from that?
what was that, Michael?
what did I make from that?
So
I
Oh.
make
you only made the premium on that, correct?
He made the premium on that specific contract.
plus the share
Oh yes.
I bought it.
Why would it be the difference? I thought the whole point of them buying your call is because they can, when they
No.
exercise it, they buy it for the original price.
They exercise it
No,
on the
no, no.
strike price.
Michael was asking this. Michael was asking this, and I think I understand his question. So, for example, I bought in GME at $100, and I'm selling
Okay.
covered call at 110. Write this shit down, okay?
Not that
110.
complicated.
Somebody is agreeing with me that he will buy my shares of GME at $110 per share.
If the price hits what? If the share price.
If the price is over 110. Otherwise, it makes
Yes.
no sense to do it, and if the contract expires worthless.
So
Why would they
What-
buy your
what-
share at 110 if the share goes above 110? Why can't they just buy it from the market?
because no, stop,
So,
stop, stop,
so they've already made
stop.
profit.
So here's the thing. At the time of me selling, GME is trading at 100 bucks. Yes, you're absolutely right. They can choose to buy GME shares at 100 and just hold the shares instead of buying my contract, right? But here's the thing. For you, each option contract is 100 shares. For some people, they might not want to invest that much money into GME because risk tolerance, opportunity cost, they would rather spend that little amount for the premium to make sure they are capitalized on the gain. So they spend that little amount of money. Okay, Mir, I'm not gonna give you this amount of money now, but you have to agree with me that you're gonna sell me your shares of GME at 110. Now, 2 weeks later, GME shots up to 105. I am screwed. Amir is screwed because he have to literally sell his shares of GME at 110, where the other guy could just take those shares and immediately go to the free market and sell it at 150. So he makes 40 bucks on the trade minus what he gave me initially.
40 bucks per
Does that
share,
kind of make
so
sense?
$4,000.
Okay.
Minus the premium
Minus
that he
the premium.
paid to me for originally agreeing on this contract.
Okay, so if it doesn't hit 110, then he has the right to not exercise it and just pay you the premium, which is like 10 bucks, 20 bucks.
The premium is already paid for in the beginning of the contract, right? That's already done.
Okay.
But
I get that money. I get that money, right?
So each contract
at
is
the
100
expiry date.
share, right?
Yeah.
So and generally premiums are like what 10, 20. So what do you mean by it adds up quickly?
No. It's more complicated than that. It's a good example of that. If we're talking about GME,
Okay.
the idea was crazy. I was looking at this. So how I would invest in GME at current date and current period is that I would buy 100 shares of GME, and I would sell the next week $500 cover call and get half of my money back. That's what I will honestly do. So think about it. You use 30 grand to buy 100 shares of GME.
Okay.
Premium is literally $150 per contract, which I could sell for the next week $500 covered call. I get back 15 grand. So that just dropped my cost to 15 grand, right? Math. But in a chance that GME does shoot up way past $500, I sell my shares at $500. So I make that money from 300 to 500 per share, plus the premium that I get back. Now, my only risk is that next week GME drops to $100, which it probably can. I'm not saying that it can't. It probably can, and that's where I lose my money because now my cost is 15K, right? Because of my cost minus the premium that I paid, is now technically worth market value of only 10 grand.
So why is your premium 1500? So you have 30. So let's say you invest in
1,500?
100 share.
1,500? 15,000, you mean?
Right.
Premium.
So
Premium, okay.
how do you determine how much each contract is worth?
So it's a very complicated formula that I have no idea how it works.
Like, do you determine it or they just post it?
No.
They post
Like if Amir determined it, he will retire next week, not in 5 years.
Okay. So you basically just post on like whatever thing saying you want to sell cover call and they will give you a number. It's like, hey, if you want to exercise by this date, by the
I don't know if you've heard this term called market maker.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So technically we call it market maker, but it's just a bunch of machines that did algorithms on the probability of it actually hitting and stuff like that. Maybe it's more complicated. I just don't know.
There's like X amount of factors, okay? Delta is how long you have till expiry, right? The longer you have till expiry, the more valuable the contract is because you have more time to hit in the money or out of the money, right?
Right.
Gamma is like a derivative of that, I think. I don't remember. You need to look this stuff up, but there's a lot of Greeks basically. You have delta, gamma, rho, whatever, and implied volatility. Right. All of the so something one of those numbers determines how fast the IV moves. One of those numbers determines how much the delta 50K moves. Like you can look it all up on Investopedia. Point is, it actually doesn't matter that much in the long run. Just know that if the stock goes up, the value of the contract goes up.
So why would your premium be 1500 is what I'm wondering. So you're saying if you sell one contract,
premium is at 150. That was the example.
No. I'm talking about GME and GME alone, and I'm talking about specifically about the past couple of weeks with all the meme stocks. If you're talking about Apple or Microsoft, their IV is really, really low because people don't expect Microsoft to gain 10% in a day, 20% in a day. They expect Microsoft or Apple to maybe drop 1% a day, 2% a day. So the premium that you collect is very, very small compared to something like GME. For example, just on base number wise, you can probably right now GME is the IV of GME is probably set at 50 times of the IV of Apple, I want to say, and that's just give you a general sense of ratio wise, right? It's not that like Jack said, it's way the calculation is way more complicated than you or him can explain to you, but
it's just more complicated
for each contract if you right. So it's possible that each contract is like $500. Go ahead. Okay. Mhm.
I didn't get a chance to listen to it yet. No.
I mean, I would make jack shit.
Profitable. Yeah.
No, man, just fucking strike it.
You really cut out like this?
Fucking losers, dude.
Wait, but I. No, sorry. I just need like I said, you don't need to be that complicated. It's just honestly,
Just sell cover
with
calls.
how no. With how modern, I guess it's not. I don't know if that's the right choice of the word, modernized. But with how in the past where you have to call your broker and ask about stock price, let
Yes.
alone ask about option prices, it's different, right? Now you can just go into a portal and they have all the option prices listed out for you based on the day. It's easily how you like how you could just buy stuff off Amazon. It's convenient, it's accessible, and it's easy, right? Some brokers are easier than the other. It's different. But like what I'm saying is that you don't have to work out for the math. You just look at the numbers. Does it make sense to you? Is it good with your risk tolerance? Are you okay with holding that share if it does drop below that? And the answer is all yes to above. And that's simply just your criteria. You go in, right? And obviously, that's just the very beginning of option trading. And then there comes the next level advanced strategies of what would happen if you choose to do certain things after, you know. Yeah. Yeah. And remember what I talked about last time is that this is of course is with my tinfoil hat on, and I don't think it was likable, but likely that options does get regulate it in a way or form. But with how things are nowadays, I don't know, right? The probability of that happening probably got higher.
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up. Is like what will be the result or even the fallout from this whole thing? Because we have SEC looking into it, we have the government, we have both. It's a bipartisan issue right now. What happened, recently, with Robinhood and all those other brokers, and we have a lot of news outlets calling for regulations on like a subreddit, Wall Street Bets, right? Which seems hilarious to me, but at the same time, like when you see what they were capable of, like yeah, maybe something will come out of that. But I do think, so I'll just finish up real quick. I do think um, Amir's reasoning, like what he was trying to explain when it modernized trading, is Robinhood did actually pioneer trading on a mobile platform for everyday users with no limits, like no minimum account balance. That is a fact. Like that is a business model that has been adapted by pretty much every brokerage now, new and old, and that is going to be the way that it will be done. Like zero commission trading, uh, no minimum fees, and intuitive UI. All these combine to make trading easier than ever for everyday people.
I see Michael just looking up like how to do options on Google or something.
What? No, I'm looking at this bid for GME cover call, and it says 158.65. So that's for each contract. It cost them
For what strike?
What's the
What strike and what
strike price is 400.
At what date?
what date?
Expiry is March 19th.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see, you guys see what I'm talking about?
So there you go. That's
That's
But you
ridiculous.
gotta have 100 shares to do one
you
contract.
gotta have
So
100
they're
shares.
at 1.8.
Yeah.
But like the thing is, no, wait. The thing is, Michael is not probably looking at the most optimal.
I'm just looking at
strike
a
to start
random
at.
one, but the amount
Yeah,
of
he
money you
is.
have to put down to even begin doing cover calls is quite a lot.
You're
Well,
looking
yeah,
at it
exactly.
now.
So I was explaining this, Michael, to you the other day. Is that you touch options if you have very little money or you have a lot of money. For little money, by just buying the calls naked, so you're not risking anything except the small amount of premium that you pay. Or and then the outcome is that it blows up and you become a millionaire, right? Or if you have a lot of money, you have these capitals already and you begin making the profit by selling insurance pretty much. And I was telling Jack, you never sell premium on a down day, which what GME was trending down at the end of the day. I don't know. I wasn't looking at the charts, but I'm looking at the charts now. The implied volatility is only at 680%. And I say this only with an air quote, like a fucking air quote, only at 681. Whereas on Thursday, I saw it at 1,000%. Yeah. So you are literally making 1.5 more on the premium than what it is right now.
I just don't see how the premium can add up. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that is what I was trying to get at. Is like regardless of the fallout of GME, a lot of retail investors will get burned. There's no question about that. A lot of people are going to lose their money, right? Let's be honest. And it's not going to be the first time it's happened. It's also not going to be the last time it's happened. But it sounds like, I think Tony, you were kind of saying that things will change in the near future, maybe because of the government regulations. And maybe things will change in terms of all these new retail investors coming in, getting burned, losing their money, and pulling out. That could also like the amount of volume on these trades will also affect the volatility, obviously, right? But because of how easy it is to invest now, because you can just download an app on your phone and put any amount of money you want into it and start trading, there is also no age limit, by the way, on trading. A lot of people in Wall Street Bets, I guarantee you, are high schoolers or even younger. Like people on TikTok are talking about investing. The average age of TikTok users is like 12 years old. The fact is, more and more people are getting into investing, and that will help Amir's strategy in the long run because, like I personally believe that people, even if they take a huge loss on GME, they're still gonna be investing, and they're still gonna be looking for the next GME. They're gonna be looking for the next rocket ship, hoping to make their money back and more.
Once you get that thrill, I don't think you ever just stop.
And I think that is a little dangerous because if there is a regulation to come out of this, I would hope that it's a minimum age restriction when it comes to investing, because I think similar to gacha games and mobile games in general, it's really easy for young people to get into a gambling addiction mindset without even realizing it's gambling, right? These are kind of gray areas in terms of, because like loot boxes in games is a very controversial thing because it is pretty much in fact gambling, right? But it's not regulated the same way gambling is because it's just something that we've never thought about until like recent times. And the fact is, like a lot of people spend an incredible amount of money on these things because it gives them that same kind of adrenaline rush as gambling. And this is what's happening right now with stocks and options trading and Wall Street bets, right? It's in fact it's glorifying it. It's like celebrating the fact that you can gamble your money like this, and it's cool. It's cool, yeah. And that is a little scary to think about for the future generations, I think. People who, like us, like I would say we grew up relatively modest, conservative with our money, right? We were taught to be responsible fiscally and to think really long term. Kids growing up these days are not going to have that kind of mindset. They're going to see the game porn that people post on Wall Street Bets about how they started with $4,000, made $1 million in like 2 weeks, and they're going to want to emulate that. They're going to want to chase that high. They're going to want to, follow that footstep, and people will get burned, right? And Amir is there to, cash in on their misfortune. um, and the other thing that I want to touch on, it was the very first question that I asked that didn't really end up getting answered, and we kind of dove into the specifics of our trading strategies, is the whole narrative of this retail investor versus hedge funds versus the man kind of thing, right? It's us against them. What exactly are hedge funds? What makes up a hedge fund? Who has their money in hedge funds? Isn't it also everyday people like us? Like a lot of people have their pensions and retirement plans in hedge funds, right? And I would argue that they're no different than everyday people. Maybe they have slightly more money than your average person, but it's not like these guys are all like some like part of some rich secret elite society that's conspiring to keep money away from the peasants, right? Like these are just everyday people who accumulated money in their life and have their assets in here, right? So if a hedge fund if a hedge fund like Melvin Capital goes under, I believe Melvin Capital has most of their money in like hospitals, and it's made up of a lot of like good cause, I guess, people and corporations. And what I'm saying is like this whole narrative of retail versus the big hedge funds, it might be a little disillusioned, right? It's not really accurate in a sense, when you really get into it. But at the same time, without this kind of emotionally driven fuel for the masses to unite, GME would not have exploded like this, right?
And this is my tinfoil hat on, of course, is that this was a whole ploy or a whole strategy set up by these so-called hedge funds to further trap more bank holders or these smaller retailers because they actually truly know what they're doing. And us, on the other hand, retail investors don't, right? Maybe some get lucky and get out when it's shooting up, but I bet your ass a lot is gonna get, destroyed when it's coming down, right? Because that's, all these people, all these hedge funds, they are run by people, algos designed by people that are way much more smarter than you and I, than the average people. They're MIT grads, they're Harvard grads. They're designing all these different things so that they can literally take money from you. They're maybe artificially pumping it up right now, making it so that the media is portrayed like this, utilizing those to have people get dump their money into these, and then when the switch gets flipped, it does get flipped.
So I don't know about the tinfoil part. Are you saying that this entire thing was orchestrated, or are you saying like in this past week or so, the
I'm
high price movement is driven?
I'm saying the potential GME short squeeze is there, and it was designed to be. It wasn't never this explosive.
I mean, I don't think a short squeeze is ever designed to happen, right? A short squeeze happens
Right.
because, okay, like typically short squeezes happen on terrible stocks, right? Like stocks that it will make sense to short. Short squeezes happen.
Yeah.
Short squeezes are very counterintuitive because.
But what I'm talking about is that for me to see GME just going back and forth as $300 value is insane to me. That to me should have been a flash squeeze, a flash coming down because of people taking profit. And if somebody is telling me that the stock is maintaining this high because of all the retail investors buying GME at $300, I'll tell them you're bonkers. Okay. And it's because something else is happening behind the scenes. Whether it be good for the retail investors or not, I don't know. But somebody is have their heads on the driving wheel.
Of course. I think so. One of two things happened when the price exploded this week, right? Either, like you said, other institutions and funds are getting in the action and they're pumping the stock up, planning to pull the rug underneath and leave the retail investors bag holding, right? Or they're betting against the other hedge funds. And that is a common thing, by the way. Like, hedge funds, it's not some secret collusive society where if you're a hedge fund, you're gonna help out another hedge fund, right? Citadel didn't bail out Melvin Capital because they're like frat brothers, They bailed them out because they have an incredibly high stake in Melvin Capital, and if they went under, then Citadel would suffer great losses too. So they're actually just hedging their insurance, right? Like they're hedging their investments. Other hedge funds who have no stake in Melvin Capital are not going to give a shit if they go under, right? They'll probably celebrate because that's less competition for them. So the other side, the other way you can view this is other institutions are now betting against the hedge funds and saying, hey, these people at Wall Street Bets, they may be dumb, but they discovered something and it could actually work. And if we help them out a little bit, we could actually trigger this short squeeze. So that's the other alternative you can consider, right? And I'm pretty skeptical that a short squeeze will happen.
But the thing is, both these two scenarios doesn't benefit the retail investors. Maybe the early investors, but like majority of the people is going to get caught with their pants down.
Of course. And my rationale for getting back in at 300 was because based on all the whole sentiment and based on what I believe are institutions getting back in is I'm pretty skeptical of a short squeeze from happening. But I do believe that it is possible we see this go up to 1,000 before a squeeze even happens. I truly believe that. And I'll probably get out much earlier than that. But I do see myself making a reasonable profit from this, even though I got in at a high price. So that is the risk reward that I chose to take on. I could very well be wrong on that. But just based on what I've seen from the past year, 2020, based on what I've seen from ridiculous IPOs and crazy runs on stocks that I'm sure you guys are all aware of, and based on what I like the media covers that's on this, like just the fact that the amount of people who've been coming to me, like asking me and talking about GameStop with me, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of dumb people getting in on this, and I'm trying to cut a slice of the pie before a rug gets pulled, if a rug gets pulled, which it very likely could. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and remember the short interest is still hovering around 100% on this, right? And like Tony said, it's entirely possible Melvin Capital got out of their short positions and other institutions got in instead, right? I think that's very reasonable. Like if you see the stock price at 300, there's just no way you think it's going to be at 300 like in a couple months from now, even in a month from now, right? So it makes perfect sense to me why you would open new short positions here. But before that, we'll see what happens. That's pretty much, I think, what I had to say on the topic. Anyone else have any closing thoughts? Yeah, yeah. Actually, we do know what they're doing. Hedge funds by law have to report their positions. I think they have to report the shares they hold. You're right, but they don't have to. They probably don't have to report like uh, their options trading positions. I'm not sure, but you can definitely look up portfolio of any hedge fund. Okay, that makes sense. That would be awesome. That would be. I think it's also. Oh my gosh.
I just need a few years, man. I just need a few years. Give me 2 more years, and you could take it away.
I mean, honestly, what is stopping us from putting our money together, buying 100 shares of GameStop, and just start selling options right now?
Because there is a risk.
The risk that it'll get
There's a
exercised.
risk that you and I, no, not getting exercised, but GameStop actually
If
dropping.
it tanks, of course.
Yeah, so it's a risk that I can only risk with my own money, but I can't justify that money with you guys because I, one, do not have contract obligation with any of you. Second, your money is not my money. But yes, we could do that.
But yeah, I mean, if we sign
Here's
a
my
contract, it could be your money. It could be our money. I believe that's called a mutual fund.
You know, based on experience, I know what the fuck I'm doing.
This is not financial
Anyway.
advice. You will lose your money.
Yes.
I like this stock. I like this stock.
Wait, I haven't even talked about my BlackBerry position yet. Holy shit, that blew my mind. I don't know. But anyways, we'll talk about it another time.
We can talk about it some other time. Yeah. You know, we could talk about the trades we've made for a long time, but yeah, I think in general, I think we want to leave this off on what Tony said. Like there is a movement happening here, regardless of the outcome of GME. It's going to be really interesting to follow. This is far from over. Whatever happens as a result, hopefully can benefit everyday investors. I'm a little bit more skeptical. I feel like history has always sided with the institutions and the elite. And I think that the government, it is in their best interest to protect the institutions rather than the average people, because at the end of the day, stability is driven by those institutions rather than average people. Like the reason why banks and companies get bailed out isn't because there's some evil like conspiracy to take over the small folk. It's that if these banks were to fail, the downside is much greater than the alternative. What is the alternative? Like letting them fail and I don't know, saving that, like taxing people less. I don't know, but you know, if you had several big institutions just collapse, then not only the financial market, but it could have an effect on the global economy as a result, right? So in general, I think the government is always going to favor siding with the establishment. And so I'm a bit skeptical on results being more transparency for retail investors, even though that is the sentiment that a lot of politicians are trying to bring up right now. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I hope you guys, I hope this was, you know, fun and interesting to talk about. I think me and Tony at the end of the day, we just started this to have more in-depth conversations in general, you know, with our friends. Because, you know, we do catch up a lot over Discord playing League and games and whatever. And while that is really fun, it's rare to have conversations like this. And I think we're all capable of doing it, but it's we just don't have the right environment for it. So, you know, hopefully this was interesting, and yeah, hopefully we'll have more conversations like this in the future.